The massive alien ships appeared without warning at the edge of Earth's solar system. They were enormous, each one larger than any city on Earth. There were hundreds of them floating in space like silent metal mountains. Their sudden arrival sent every alarm screaming across human space. Admiral Kang Taman stood in the command center on Earth, watching the screens with calm eyes. He was an older man with gray hair and a face marked by years of military service. Around him, younger officers rushed back and forth, their voices tight with worry. But Taman remained still, his hands clasped behind his back. The alien transmission came through all at once, appearing on every screen across Earth, Mars, and all the human colonies. A reptilian creature materialized in holographic form. Its scales were deep purple and its eyes were cold and dismissive. This was Counselor Vexthar, leader of the Galactic Council. "Humans," the alien said, its voice echoing across billions of devices. "You have violated the laws of this galaxy. You have built colonies in protected zones. You have expanded without permission. This cannot be tolerated." Next to Taman, Captain Lee Ji-hyun gripped the edge of her console. She was young for a ship captain, barely 30 years old, but she commanded Earth's flagship with skill. Her knuckles turned white as she listened to the alien's words. "The Galactic Council has maintained order in this galaxy for thousands of your years." Vexthar continued, "We have brought peace to hundreds of species. Now we offer you the same choice we gave them. Dismantle your colonies beyond your home system. Surrender your military ships. Accept our protection. You have 72 hours to comply." The hologram showed more aliens behind Vexthar. There was a massive insect-like creature called High Magistrate Ornal, and a scarred warrior named War Master Krell. They all looked at humanity with the same expression: contempt. They had done this before, to other species, and those species had always surrendered. "If you refuse," Vexthar said, "we will demonstrate why compliance is your only option. Choose wisely, humans. We will be watching." The transmission ended. For a moment, the command center was silent. Then everyone started talking at once. Officers shouted questions. Technicians called out readings from the alien fleet. Somewhere in the building, someone was crying. Admiral Taman turned to the screen showing the President of United Earth. The President looked pale and shaken. "Admiral, what do we do?" Before Taman could answer, Dr. Yoon Hana entered the room. She was the chief science advisor, a brilliant woman in her 40s who rarely left her laboratory. Today, though, her presence was needed here. She walked straight to Taman and whispered something in his ear. A slow smile spread across the Admiral's weathered face. Ambassador Park Soo-jin appeared on another screen, calling in from the diplomatic headquarters. She was an elegant woman known for her ability to stay calm in any crisis. "Admiral, the aliens are waiting for our response. The whole world is waiting. What should I tell them?" Taman looked around the room at all the frightened faces. Then he looked back at the screen showing Earth's leaders. "Tell them we need the full 72 hours to consider their generous offer. Tell them they're welcome to wait right where they are." Captain Ji-hyun looked at him in surprise. "Sir, is that all?" "They're threatening to destroy us." "That's all for now, Captain," Taman said. That strange smile never left his face. Ambassador Park nodded slowly. She understood something that the others didn't yet. "I'll send the message, Admiral." The response went out to the alien fleet. It was simple and polite. Earth acknowledged the Council's ultimatum and would provide an answer in 72 hours. Until then, the Council was asked to maintain their current position. On the Council flagship, Counselor Vexthar read the human response with confusion. "They ask us to wait? They show no fear." He turned to War Master Krell. "What is this?" Krell studied the sensor readings of Earth's solar system. "I see no unusual military activity. Their fleet is small and scattered. Perhaps they simply don't understand the danger they face." "Primitives," Vexthar hissed. "They will learn. All species learn eventually." Back on Earth, emergency meetings began. World leaders gathered in secure locations. Military commanders reviewed their resources. Scientists checked their calculations again and again. And the public watched the sky, wondering if these were humanity's last days. But in certain secret facilities, different preparations were underway. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, Colonel Kim Minho walked through a vast underground complex. The facility was buried under kilometers of ice, hidden from any scanner in the galaxy. He approached a massive chamber where engineer Nam Junho was making final adjustments to equipment that hummed with barely contained power. "Is it ready?" Minyo asked. Junho nodded, his hands moving confidently over the controls. "It's been ready for 3 years. We've just been waiting for a reason to use it." On a space station orbiting Mars, Agent Choi Yuna sat in a dark room surrounded by screens. Each screen showed a different alien ship in the Council fleet. She had been watching them for hours, cataloging their types, their formations, their communication patterns. None of them knew that tiny human probes invisible to their sensors had been studying galactic traffic for decades. "They think we're surprised," she muttered to herself. "They think this is humanity's first day knowing about aliens." She allowed herself a cold smile. If only they knew. In laboratories across Earth and its colonies, scientists examined data that had been collected years ago from a crashed alien scout ship. The Council thought that ship had been destroyed, its secrets lost. They were wrong. Every piece of their technology had been recovered, studied, and in many cases improved upon. Dr. Yoon-hana stood in her private lab, looking at the fruits of a decade of research. The quantum displacement theory was sound. The weapons based on it would work. She had tested them in secret, far from any observer. Now she just needed to wait for Admiral Taman's order. As the first day of the 72-hour countdown ended, Admiral Taman stood on the observation deck of Earth's military headquarters. He looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, an alien fleet waited with arrogant confidence. Captain Ji-hyun found him there. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Of course, Captain." "Why did you smile when they gave us the ultimatum? Everyone else was terrified, but you smiled." Taman was quiet for a moment, still looking at the stars. "Because, Captain, they made 2 very dangerous mistakes." "What mistakes, sir?" "First, they assumed we were unprepared. Second, they gave us 72 hours. He turned to face her, and that smile was back. "That's 71 hours more than we need." Ji-hyun felt a chill run down her spine, but it wasn't from fear. It was anticipation. "You've been planning for this." "We've been planning for this since the day our first probe disappeared and never came back," Taman said. "We hoped we were wrong about not being alone, but we prepared in case we were right." He put a hand on her shoulder. "Get some rest, Captain. In 72 hours, you're going to be very busy." As Ji-hyun left, Taman returned his gaze to the stars. Somewhere in his command center, orders were being quietly distributed to ships and stations across human space. Orders that had been written years ago, waiting for this exact moment. The Galactic Council wanted humanity to surrender. They expected fear and submission. They thought they knew what would happen because it had always happened before. They were about to learn that humanity was different. Admiral Kang Taman smiled at the stars and whispered to himself, "Come on then. Let's see who's really in charge of this galaxy." On the Council flagship, War Master Krell watched the human solar system through advanced sensors. He saw cargo ships moving between Earth and Mars. He saw mining vessels working in the asteroid belt. He saw what looked like normal, peaceful activity. Nothing suggested a military preparing for war. "They continue their daily routines," he reported to Counselor Vexthar. "Either they are incredibly foolish or they plan to surrender." Vexthar nodded, satisfied. As expected, no primitive species has ever resisted the Council. Why should these humans be different? But what the Council's sensors couldn't see was far more important than what they could. 50 years earlier, humanity had launched its first faster-than-light probe toward Alpha Centauri. The probe was supposed to send back data about nearby star systems. Instead, it simply disappeared. The official report said it had malfunctioned. The classified report said something else entirely. Agent Choi Yuna had been a young intelligence officer back then. She had argued that the probe hadn't malfunctioned. Someone had taken it. Someone was out there and they didn't want to be found yet. Her superiors had laughed at first, but she had been persistent. Eventually, they had listened. Now, decades later, Yuna sat in her monitoring station and looked at the data her network had collected. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. Tiny stealth probes, invisible to alien sensors, had been planted throughout neighboring star systems. They watched alien ships pass by. They recorded communications. They studied technologies. The intelligence they gathered was priceless. Humanity had learned about the Galactic Council 10 years before the Council learned about humanity's expansion. They had learned about Council politics, about their military tactics, about their weaknesses. and they had kept it all secret. The breakthrough had come when Captain Lee Ji-hyun, then just a junior officer on her first deep space mission, had discovered something extraordinary. On a remote, uninhabited planet, her ship's sensors had detected unusual metal deposits. Upon investigation, they found wreckage. It was a Council scout ship that had crashed years earlier. The Council had written it off as lost with all hands, the evidence destroyed. But the ship's core had survived, buried in ice. Inside that core was a treasure trove of information about Council technology, star charts, and military protocols. That discovery had changed everything. Dr. Yoon Hana remembered the day they brought her the alien computer core. She had been skeptical at first. Alien technology was supposed to be far beyond human understanding. But as she studied it, she realized something surprising. It wasn't more advanced than human technology. It was just different. The Council's civilization was thousands of years old. Their technology had been refined and perfected over that time. But it hadn't fundamentally changed in centuries. They had reached a plateau and stopped innovating. Why innovate when you were already the most powerful force in the galaxy? Humanity's technology, by contrast, was barely 200 years old. It was crude and rough in places, but it was also wildly creative. Humans hadn't stopped innovating because they couldn't afford to. Earth's history was full of species that stopped adapting and went extinct. Humans remembered those lessons. Dr. Yoon Hana had taken what she learned from the alien core and pushed human physics in new directions. Her breakthrough in quantum displacement theory had come from understanding what the aliens couldn't do, then figuring out how to do it. The Council's shields were designed to stop physical projectiles and energy beams. They had never imagined weapons that could bypass physical space entirely. On Titan, Colonel Kim Min-ho and engineer Nam Jun-ho had turned that theory into reality. The facility hidden beneath the moon's ice was called Project Prometheus. It had taken 8 years and enormous resources to build. The global population didn't know it existed. The Council certainly didn't know. Min-ho walked through the facility's main weapon chamber. It was enormous, carved out of solid ice and rock, then reinforced with materials that shouldn't exist according to conventional physics. At the center was the quantum displacement cannon, Junho's masterpiece. "We can move anything," Junho had explained when he first showed Min-ho the completed weapon. "Doesn't matter how big it is or how far away. If we can target it, we can move it. Send it to another star system. Send it into a sun. Send it away. And they'll never see it coming," Min-ho had asked. "Their shields stop things moving through space. This doesn't move through space. It's complicated, but no, they won't see it coming." Now, as the countdown continued, Min-ho watched his crew make final preparations. They had practiced this drill hundreds of times. Every person knew their role. They were ready. Meanwhile, Ambassador Park Soo-jin was playing a different kind of game. She had opened private communication channels with several members of the Galactic Council. Not the leadership, but junior members. Representatives of smaller species who didn't have much power in council decisions. With the help of Dr. Ahn Ji-won, a psychologist who specialized in understanding alien minds, Park crafted careful messages. She didn't threaten. She didn't beg. She asked questions. "How did your species feel when the Council first found you?" she asked one alien diplomat. "Were you given a choice or were you told what to do? When the Council demanded you surrender your independence, did you think it was fair?" She asked another. She wasn't trying to turn them against the Council. Not yet. She was planting seeds of doubt, reminding them that they had once been in humanity's position, making them wonder if the Council's authority was as absolute as it claimed to be. Some ignored her messages, but some responded, and just a few, seemed sympathetic. On Mars, Fleet Commander Oh Sung-min was orchestrating what looked like a military disaster. Human ships were pulling back from the outer colonies, retreating toward the inner solar system. To the Council observers, it looked like a defensive withdrawal, a sign that humanity was preparing for a last stand. But Sung-min's officers knew better. Every ship that pulled back was taking up a precise position. The seemingly random retreat was actually a carefully planned formation. When the Council fleet advanced, they would enter a maze of overlapping firing zones. The entire inner solar system would become a trap. What made it even more effective was that most of those ships weren't military vessels. They were cargo haulers, mining ships, and civilian transports. Over the past decades, every civilian ship built by humanity had been designed with hidden military capabilities. They looked harmless. Their civilian operations were real and functional, but each one could transform into a weapon platform when needed. Captain Bae Hyunwoo commanded one of the most unusual units in Earth's military. His ships operated like submarines, running silent and hidden. They used the solar wind, radiation from planets, and the chaos of the asteroid belt to hide from sensors. Even human sensors had trouble finding them sometimes. Now Bae's stealth fleet was moving into position throughout the solar system. The Council had no idea they were there. When the time came, they would strike from places the enemy thought were empty space. As the second day of the countdown ended, Dr. Yoon Hana did something unexpected. She broadcast a scientific paper to the entire Council fleet. It was her work on advanced quantum mechanics presented as a gift of knowledge from Earth to new galactic friends. Most of the Council ignored it. A primitive species trying to impress them with science? Laughable. But a few Council scientists, bored during the wait, decided to read it. What they found made their blood run cold, or whatever equivalent their species had. The mathematics was sound. The theories were revolutionary. If humans could theorize this level of quantum mechanics, what had they already built? One Council scientist, a being called Shunri, sent an urgent message to War Master Krell. "You need to read this human document. Their theoretical physics is centuries ahead of ours. This changes everything." Krell dismissed the message. Scientists always worried too much. The Council's military might had never failed before. Why would it fail now? He would regret ignoring that warning. On Earth, Admiral Kang Taemin held a final meeting with his top commanders. Captain Lee Ji-hyun attended via hologram from her flagship. Colonel Kim Min-ho called in from Titan. Fleet Commander Oh Sung-min joined from Mars. Agent Choi Yuna appeared on a secure channel. Dr. Yoon Hana sat next to Taemin in person. "Status reports," Taemin said simply. One by one, they confirmed their readiness. Every piece was in place. Every weapon was armed. Every person knew their role. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for first contact. They had hoped it would be peaceful, but they had prepared for war. "The Council expects us to surrender," Taemin said. "They think we're primitive and weak. They think they know how this ends." He looked at each face on the screens. "Let's show them what happens when you underestimate humans." 12 hours remained until the deadline. The galaxy was about to change forever. The final hours before the deadline were the strangest anyone had ever experienced. On Earth, people went about their daily lives with a kind of calm that seemed impossible. Children went to school. Workers reported to their jobs. The stock markets remained stable. It was as if the entire planet had decided that fear wouldn't help, so why bother with it? But beneath that calm surface, humanity was coiled like a spring, ready to release. Captain Lee Ji-hyun stood on the bridge of the UDS Indomitable, Earth's flagship. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency around her. They weren't rushing or panicking. They had trained for this for years. Every officer knew their station. Every system had been checked and rechecked. "Captain," her tactical officer said, "the civilian fleet has finished repositioning. All ships are in position and awaiting orders." Ji-hyun nodded. Looking at her tactical display, she could see thousands of ships spread throughout the inner solar system. To any observer, they looked scattered and defensive. But she saw the truth. Each ship was exactly where it needed to be. Together they formed a web that would ensnare anyone who entered it. On the Council flagship, War Master Krell was growing impatient. 6 hours remain. Still the humans show no fear. Are they stupid or suicidal? Counselor Vexthar paced back and forth, his tail swishing with irritation. Perhaps both. It doesn't matter. When the deadline passes, we advance. A few destroyed cities will make them understand. But High Magistrate Ornal, the ancient insectoid being, was troubled. His kind had lived for centuries and developed instincts about danger. Something about this situation felt wrong. The humans were too calm, too prepared. He tried to voice his concerns, but Vexthar dismissed them. "You worry too much, Magistrate. We have done this 1,000 times before." "Yes," Ornal said quietly, "but we have never done it to humans before." Ambassador Park Soo-jin sat in her office, reviewing the responses to her diplomatic outreach. 3 Council species had sent private messages indicating they would not participate in any attack on Earth. 3 more had expressed doubts about the entire operation. It wasn't much, but it was a crack in the Council's unity. She composed one final message and sent it to every Council member. It was simple. When this is over, remember that Earth offered peace. What comes next is not our choice. Dr. An Jiwon, reading over her shoulder, asked, "Do you think they'll understand the warning?" "Some will," Park said. "The smart ones. The ones who have been paying attention." She closed her computer and stood. "The rest will learn the hard way." On Titan, Colonel Kim Minho watched the countdown clock. 4 hours remained. His team had been at their stations for 12 hours already, but no one looked tired. They were too focused. Too ready. Engineer Nam Junho ran one final diagnostic on the quantum displacement cannon. Every reading came back green. The weapon that had taken 8 years to build was ready to fire. All it needed was a target. "Colonel," Junho said, "I've been thinking. Once we use this, the galaxy will know what we can do. We won't be able to put this secret back in the box." Minho nodded. "I know, but if we don't use it, we might not survive to have secrets." He put a hand on Junho's shoulder. "Sometimes you have to show your cards to win the game." Fleet Commander Oh Sung-min stood in the command center on Mars, surrounded by holographic displays showing every human ship in the solar system. It looked like chaos, but he saw the order in it. Every civilian freighter, every mining vessel, every passenger ship was part of the plan. His second-in-command, a woman named Park Yoonji, stood beside him. "Sir, do you really think the civilian crews can handle combat?" Sungmin smiled. "Every civilian crew member is a reservist. They've all done military training. The mining ship pilots have been practicing combat maneuvers disguised as asteroid navigation exercises. The cargo hauler captains have run weapon drills they thought were equipment tests." He gestured to the display. "They might not look like a military fleet, but they'll fight like one." Captain Bae Hyunwoo's stealth ships were invisible in the darkness of space. They floated near Jupiter, using the planet's massive radiation to mask their signatures. Council sensors swept past them constantly, detecting nothing. Bae watched the enemy fleet on his instruments. He knew every ship's position, every patrol pattern. When the battle began, his ships would hit the Council forces from directions they thought were empty. The first rule of submarine warfare, which adapted perfectly to space: attack from where they're not looking. 2 hours before the deadline, Dr. Yoon Hana activated a special protocol. All across human space, hidden weapon platforms came online. They had been disguised as communication satellites, research stations, and mining equipment. Now they revealed their true purpose. The platforms didn't use conventional weapons. They used the quantum displacement technology that Hana had developed. They could target enemy ships and move them. Not destroy them, just move them. It was actually more terrifying than destruction. What good was armor if the enemy could just send your ship somewhere else? Agent Choi Yuna sat in her dark room, fingers flying across her keyboard. The viruses she had planted in Council communication networks years ago were about to activate. They had been dormant for so long, buried so deep, that no alien scanner had ever found them. In 2 hours, they would wake up and turn the Council's own systems against them. She thought about the young intelligence officer she had been 50 years ago, arguing that humanity needed to prepare for alien contact. Everyone had thought she was paranoid. Now they were grateful for her paranoia. 1 hour remained. Admiral Kang Taemin stood in the command center, watching his displays with calm eyes. Every commander had reported ready. Every weapon was armed. Every trap was set. 50 years of preparation was about to be tested. He opened a channel to the entire human fleet. His face appeared on screens throughout the solar system, in ships from Earth to the furthest colonies. "This is Admiral Taemin," he said. His voice was steady and calm. "In 1 hour, the Galactic Council will expect our surrender. They think we're primitives who should bow to their ancient authority. They think they know how this story ends because they've seen it 1,000 times before." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But they've never met humans before. They don't know that we evolved on a planet that tried to kill us in every way imaginable. They don't know that we survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed us. They don't know that the one thing humans absolutely refuse to do is give up." On ships throughout the fleet, crews listened with growing determination. "In 1 hour, we're going to teach the galaxy a lesson," Taemin continued. "We're going to show them that Earth doesn't surrender. We're going to show them that threatening humanity was the biggest mistake the Council ever made, and we're going to do it in a way they'll never forget." He straightened his uniform. "All ships stand by for final orders. The moment that deadline hits, we show them what humans are really capable of." Taemin out. The channel closed. Across human space, people waited. Some were afraid, some were excited, but none doubted what was coming. 30 minutes before the deadline, Counselor Vexthar sent one final message to Earth. Humans, this is your last chance. Surrender now and we will be merciful. Refuse and we will demonstrate our power. Choose wisely. Admiral Taman read the message and smiled. He sent back a single sentence, "We have chosen. Come and see what we choose." Vexthar stared at the response in confusion and anger. "Primitives," he hissed. "War Master Krell, the moment the deadline passes, advance. Show them the cost of defiance." Krell bowed. "As you command, Counselor." The Council fleet began moving into attack formation. Hundreds of massive ships, each one a fortress of metal and weapons, prepared to sweep through the human solar system like a wave of destruction. They had done this before. They knew they would win. The countdown hit 0 and Earth's trap sprang shut. In that first second, everything changed. The quantum displacement weapons on Titan and throughout human space activated. 20 Council ships simply vanished, transported 3 light years away in an instant. Their shields hadn't stopped it. Their armor hadn't helped. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. In the second, Agent Choi Yuna's viruses activated. Council communication networks crashed. Sensor data became corrupted. Ships started receiving false orders. Automated systems turned on each other. Chaos spread through the alien fleet faster than any physical weapon could. In the third second, thousands of civilian ships dropped their camouflage. Cargo haulers opened their holds to reveal missile batteries. Mining ships activated weapon systems designed to crack asteroids that worked just as well on starship hulls. The harmless fleet became an army. War Master Krell watched his tactical display dissolve into madness. "What is happening? Report!" But there was no one to report. His communications were down. His sensors were lying. And human weapons were striking from every direction at once. The battle for Earth had begun, and the Galactic Council was already losing. The Council fleet had expected an easy victory. They had expected frightened humans begging for mercy. What they got instead was a nightmare. Captain Lee Ji-hyun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching her tactical display with fierce satisfaction. All weapons fire at will. Fighter squadrons launch now. The flagship's hangar bays opened and hundreds of small fighter craft poured out like angry bees from a hive. These weren't the slow, predictable fighters the Council was used to. Human pilots flew with creativity and aggression that confused alien tactical computers. Captain Sung Hyejin led the first squadron, her voice clear over the communications channel. "Red Squadron, follow my lead. We're going after their communication arrays. They can't coordinate if they can't talk." Her fighters dove toward a massive Council battleship. The ship's defensive guns tried to track them, but human pilots didn't fly in straight lines. They jinked and rolled, using the debris from destroyed ships as cover, moving in ways that seemed random but were actually carefully calculated chaos. Hyejin's fighter screamed past the battleship's shields, targeting the vulnerable communication towers on its hull. Her missiles struck true, and the tower exploded in a shower of metal and sparks. All around her, other fighters did the same to other ships. Within minutes, dozens of Council vessels had lost the ability to coordinate with their fleet. On Titan, Engineer Nam Junho targeted the next ship for quantum displacement. It was one of the Council's largest carriers, filled with thousands of alien soldiers. He input the coordinates and activated the weapon. The carrier didn't explode. It simply stopped being there. One moment it was in the solar system, the next it was 3 light years away in empty space. The aliens on board were unharmed but completely stranded. They would eventually be rescued, but they were out of the fight. "Another one gone," Junho reported to Colonel Minho. "The weapon is working perfectly." Minho nodded. "Good, but use it sparingly. We want them to fear it, not understand it. Mystery is a weapon too." Fleet Commander Oh Sung-min watched the battle unfold from Mars. The Council fleet was trying to advance toward Earth, but they were finding it impossible. Every route was blocked by human ships. Every open space turned out to have hidden weapon platforms. The asteroid belt, which should have been easy to navigate, became a deadly maze of crossfire. "They're trying to flank us through the belt," his tactical officer reported. Sungmin smiled. "Let them try. Our mining crews know every rock in that belt. The Council doesn't." Sure enough, the Council ships that entered the asteroid belt found themselves under attack from unexpected angles. Mining vessels that had spent years working in the belt, knew exactly how to use the asteroids as cover and weapons. They lured Council ships into narrow passages, then collapsed asteroids on top of them. Captain Bae Hyunwoo's stealth fleet struck from near Jupiter. The Council had no idea his ships were there until missiles started appearing from apparently empty space. By the time the aliens figured out where the attacks were coming from, Bae's ships had already moved to new positions. "Stealth is our advantage," Bae told his crews. "Hit fast, move immediately, never stay in one place. Make them see ghosts everywhere." His tactic worked. Council ships started firing at shadows, wasting ammunition on empty space. They became paranoid, unsure what was real and what wasn't. Fear spread through their ranks faster than any weapon. Agent Choi Yuna's cyber attack was devastating. Council ships that should have been working together started treating each other as enemies. Automated defense systems activated at random. Navigation computers gave false readings. Weapon systems locked up or fired at the wrong targets. One Council destroyer actually opened fire on its own flagship because the virus had convinced its computer that the flagship was a hostile target. The friendly fire incident caused chaos and confusion that spread through the entire fleet. War Master Krell was on that flagship, and he was furious. Override the computers. Switch to manual control. But switching thousands of ships to manual control took time, and time was something the Council didn't have. Human attacks continued relentlessly, exploiting every moment of confusion. Dr. Yoon Hana monitored the battle from her laboratory on Earth. The quantum weapons were performing even better than expected. The Council's shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, were useless against technology that didn't travel through normal space. She opened a channel to Admiral Taemin. "Admiral, the Council's scientist Shanri is trying to send a message. Should I block it?" "Let it through," Taemin said. "Let's hear what they have to say." Shanri's image appeared on the screen. The alien scientist looked terrified. "Please, you must stop this. We didn't know. We didn't understand what your species was capable of." Taemin's expression didn't change. "You were warned. Your Council chose not to listen. But the calculations in Dr. Hana's paper, if you can build weapons based on that theory, you could destroy entire star systems. We could, Taemin interrupted. But we won't. We're not interested in destroying you. We're interested in making you leave us alone." The battle raged for 3 more hours. The Council fleet, which had started with hundreds of ships, was reduced to less than half that number. Some had been destroyed. Some had been displaced to other star systems. Some had simply powered down their weapons and surrendered when they realized they couldn't win. And then something unexpected happened. 3 Council species, the ones Ambassador Park Soo-jin had been communicating with, announced they were withdrawing from the fight. Their ships powered down weapons and retreated to the edge of the system. Counselor Vexthar screamed at them over the communications channel. "Traitors, cowards! You dare defy the Council?" One of the departing species, a being called Catherine, responded calmly. "We dare to refuse an unjust war. The Council gave Earth no choice, no negotiation. This isn't peacekeeping. This is bullying, and we will not be part of it." The departure of those 3 species caused others to question the fight. More ships began withdrawing. The unified Council fleet was fracturing. High Magistrate Ornal, who had worried from the beginning, sent a private message to War Master Krell. "End this. We cannot win. Every moment we continue, we lose more ships and more allies. End this now before the Council destroys itself." Krell looked at his tactical displays. The truth was obvious even if he didn't want to admit it. The Council was losing. Badly. A species they had dismissed as primitives was defeating them with technology and tactics they couldn't counter. "Sound the retreat," he said quietly. "Sir?" his aide asked, unsure if he'd heard correctly. "Sound the retreat," Krell shouted. "Pull all ships back to the edge of the system. Cease fire. We're done." The retreat order spread through what remained of the Council fleet. Ships that had come to conquer Earth instead turned and ran. They retreated in disorder, still under attack from human forces that pursued them mercilessly. Admiral Taemin watched the alien fleet flee. He could have ordered his forces to destroy them all. Earth had the capability, but he had made a decision long ago about what humanity would be if this moment came. "Cease fire," he ordered. "Let them go. We've made our point." Captain Ji-hyun looked at him in surprise. "Sir, we could destroy them." "We could," Taemin agreed. "But we won't. We're not conquerors, Captain. We never were. We're defenders. We defended ourselves. Now it's time to show mercy. Across human space, weapons powered down. Fighter squadrons returned to their carriers. The quantum displacement cannons on Titan went silent. The civilian fleet resumed their normal disguises. The battle was over. Earth had won. Counselor Vexithar sat in his command chair, staring at the defeat with disbelief. How had this happened? How had primitives defeated the might of the Galactic Council? Admiral Taman's face appeared on his screen. The human smiled, that same calm smile from when this had all started. Counselor, Taman said, Earth gave you a chance to leave peacefully. You chose war. You lost. Now you have another choice. Leave our space and never return, or stay and we'll show you what other weapons we've been holding back. Vexithar wanted to argue, wanted to threaten, wanted to maintain his pride, but he looked at his shattered fleet and knew he had no power left. We will leave, he said bitterly. Good, Taman replied. And Counselor? Tell the galaxy what happened here. Tell them that Earth doesn't surrender. Tell them that the next species you threaten might not be as merciful as we were. The transmission ended. The Council fleet limped away from Earth's solar system, defeated and humiliated. On Earth, people celebrated in the streets. They had faced the greatest threat in human history and won. They had proven that humanity could stand against anything. But in the military command centers, the leaders knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy knew about Earth now, and nothing would ever be the same. The news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. The Galactic Council, which had maintained order for thousands of years, had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The implications were staggering. On dozens of worlds that lived under Council rule, populations heard the story and began to wonder. If humans could resist, why couldn't they? Protests started on some planets. Others began secretly preparing their own defenses. The Council's authority, once unquestioned, was suddenly fragile. Counselor Vexthar returned to the Council homeworld in disgrace. He was stripped of his position and exiled. War Master Krell resigned in shame. The Council that had been so confident now faced rebellion from within and challenges from without. High Magistrate Ornal, the ancient insectoid who had sensed the danger, became the new leader. He was old and wise enough to understand that the galaxy had changed. The old ways of ruling through fear and force were ending. On Earth, Admiral Kang Taman faced a different challenge. He had won the battle, but now came the harder part, winning the peace. He stood in the conference room with Ambassador Park Sujin, Dr. Yoon Hana, Captain Lee Ji-hyun, and the President of United Earth. They were discussing what came next. We could press our advantage, the President said. The Council is weak. We could demand territory, resources, recognition as the dominant power. Taman shook his head. That would make us what we just defeated. Bullies who use force to get what they want. Ambassador Park agreed. We have an opportunity here. The galaxy is watching to see what humanity does with its victory. We can show them something different. Something better. Dr. Yoon Hana pulled up a holographic document. I've been working on a proposal. What if we shared our technology? Not the weapons, but the peaceful applications of quantum displacement. Medical uses, transportation, energy generation. We could help the entire galaxy advance. Captain Ji-hyun looked skeptical. After they tried to conquer us? We should help them? Yes, Park Sujin said firmly. Because that's what will make us different. The Council rules through fear. We can lead through cooperation. It took weeks of debate, but eventually Earth's leaders agreed on a new approach. Ambassador Park Sujin would propose the creation of a galactic federation to replace the Council. Not a hierarchy of strong ruling weak, but a genuine democracy where every species had a voice. The proposal was revolutionary. Many Council species rejected it immediately. They were used to power and didn't want to give it up. But the species that had been ruled, the protectorates and subjects, embraced the idea eagerly. Slowly, one species at a time, the Federation began to take shape. It wasn't easy. There were arguments about representation, about rules, about how decisions would be made, but the process continued. 5 years after the battle, the Galactic Federation held its first assembly. Hundreds of species sent representatives. Not all the old Council members joined, but enough did that the Federation had real power and authority. Ambassador Park Soo-jin was elected the first Federation Chancellor. She stood before the assembly, looking at the diverse faces of beings from across the galaxy. 5 years ago, she said, the Galactic Council ordered Earth to surrender. We refused, not because we wanted war, but because we believed in the right of every species to choose its own path. Today we stand together not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals working toward a common future. The changes went beyond politics. Captain Lee Ji-hyun now commanded a joint task force of human and alien ships. They protected trade routes, responded to disasters, and explored new regions of space together. Working side by side, humans and aliens learned to trust each other. On Mars, Fleet Commander Oh Sung-min had established the Federation Naval Academy. Human and alien officers trained together, learning from each other's strengths. The rigid traditional tactics of the Council were blended with human creativity and adaptability, creating something new and better. Engineer Nam Junho kept his promise to share technology. The quantum displacement system that had been a weapon was adapted for peaceful uses. Medical teams could now transport emergency supplies instantly to disaster zones. Scientists could move research equipment to remote locations. What had been designed to win a war was now saving lives. Dr. Yoon Hana's research became public knowledge, advancing galactic science by decades. Universities across the galaxy studied her work. Young scientists, both human and alien, built on her theories to create new technologies that benefited everyone. Agent Choi Yuna's intelligence network transformed into the Federation Information Service. Instead of spying and secrecy, it worked to share information openly and prevent conflicts before they started. Yuna herself became an advisor on diplomacy and conflict resolution. Not everything was perfect. There were still tensions. Some species couldn't let go of old grudges. Some humans were angry that Earth was sharing technology with former enemies. But the Federation worked through these problems one at a time, with patience and dialogue. The old Council species that refused to join the Federation found themselves increasingly isolated. They had power, but no one wanted to work with them. Their economies suffered. Their influence faded. Some eventually swallowed their pride and applied to join the Federation. Others remained bitter and alone. Counselor Vexthar lived out his exile on a remote world, watching as everything he had believed in crumbled. The species he had thought inferior had shown the galaxy a better way. His arrogance had cost him everything. On Titan, Colonel Kim Min-ho oversaw the decommissioning of the weapon platforms. They were converted into research facilities studying peaceful applications of quantum physics. The place that had been built for war became a center for learning. Captain Bae Hyun-woo commanded an exploration vessel with a mixed crew. His experience with stealth operations translated well to exploring dangerous regions of space. The alien crew members learned human improvisation. The human crew members learned alien patience. Together, they made discoveries neither could have made alone. Dr. Han So-min, the xenobiologist who had studied alien technology, now worked with alien scientists to understand biology across species. They made breakthroughs in medicine that helped everyone. Diseases that had plagued some species for centuries were cured through cooperation. Admiral Kang Taemin retired from military service. He was old now and he had earned his rest. But he remained an advisor, someone the younger generation could turn to for wisdom. One day, a young reporter named Kim Do-hyun came to interview him. They sat in a park on Earth where human children played alongside young aliens from a dozen different species. "Admiral," Do-hyun asked, "when the Council gave their ultimatum 5 years ago, you smiled. Everyone wondered why. Can you tell me now?" Taemin watched the children playing together. A human girl was teaching an alien child how to kick a soccer ball. An insectoid youngster was showing human kids how to climb trees with multiple limbs. They were laughing together, making up games that combined all their abilities. "I smiled," Taemin said slowly, "because I knew something the Council didn't. Yes, we had prepared for war. Yes, we had weapons that could shake worlds. But we had also prepared for what comes after war. We had prepared for peace." He gestured to the playing children. "Any species can destroy. That's easy. But building something better, creating cooperation from conflict, turning enemies into friends, that's hard. That's what makes humanity special. Not our weapons, but our hope." Do-hyun wrote down his words carefully. "Do you think the peace will last?" Taman smiled that same calm smile. Peace never lasts on its own. You have to work at it every day. But I think we have a good start. The galaxy has seen that there's another way to solve problems besides force. They've seen that different species can work together and be stronger for it. He stood up, ready to leave. And I think future generations, like those kids playing over there, will wonder why we ever thought war was the only option. Do-hyun watched the old admiral walk away, then looked back at his notes. He had come looking for a story about military victory. What he found was something better, a story about building a future worth fighting for. On Earth and across the galaxy, that future was taking shape. The species that had ordered humanity to surrender had instead learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't the ability to fight. It was the wisdom to know when to fight, when to show mercy, and when to build something better. Earth had smiled when the Council demanded surrender because Earth knew the truth. The real victory wasn't in defeating an enemy. It was in turning that enemy into a friend, and that was a victory that would last forever.